As you can see with this project, I've started out by making all of the colors, which is mostly just oranges and grays, and then shape it out into a bean shape. Once it's a bean shape, I can cut out a little slit in the legs and then shape them to the proper shape. Then I cut them to be a little bit shorter, and then shape them out to be a little more Among Us. Now that that's done with, I can add the arms, which are just more little cylinders that then get blended into the rest of the orange body to make it look like there's no seams. But I couldn't add them before because, the whole thing. Once the arms get fully blended in, I can start adding more colors. And also shaping the arms to be cut to the proper size. But I can also add some dark gray for the feet. Well, the shoes, not the feet. I don't know why I say stuff like this. Then I push the feet into the ground in order to shape them out to be the proper shape, and then I add 2 worms around it to basically just make it the design that it is in the proper game. Which I do not like, I just like the character designs. Let me get that perfectly clear. Then this 2-coil design gets copied over to the other leg, basically just the same as before, except the coils are a little bit smaller. And after that I can work on the knee area, which is just a long, flat sheet of blue. This gets wrapped around just the knee area and not the upper leg, just to get that perfectly clear, and keep this blue around as it'll be used for the arms later. Once that blue is blended in, I can add a little belt of vermilion that gets added around the waist area and the buttocks. This gets blended in similarly to the arms to make it so that there is no seam. I cannot talk today. Once all of this red-orange is blended into the orange-orange, I can add the dark gray belt that is on the actual design. Then I can blend the gray coil onto the other end of the gray coil, and then I can add a darker orange, basically just brown around the 2 shoulders, basically where I connected the arms earlier, so just where that seam used to be. Then around the elbows, I add that blue that I was talking about earlier. This gets flattened out to be basically the same as around the knees, and also added on both elbows, obviously. And once that's done, I can work on something else. What I work on here is the bottom of the little astronaut's helmet where it connects to the rest of the body. This is just a little circular thingy with some square and rectangular bits off the side, and then with a ever so slightly off white, I can make the hands, which are just balls with smaller balls off of it. These get placed on both ends of the wrists and then surrounded by a dark gray coil, as basically the same with the shoes. This, as usual, happens on both arms, and once it's done, I can use that slightly off white to add the little record player on the belt. I don't know, it has 2 black dots, so that's just my headcanon. And then I can add the front console. This is just a rectangle that gets added on the front part, and then surrounded by a dark gray coil. After that, I add some little doodads and thingamabobbers, and a little dark gray rectangle on the bottom part, and then some buttons out of some red and blue. Then on the back, I add the oxygen tank. I don't know. This is just a much larger and thicker rectangle that it gets a little coil of the dark gray also on the back surrounding it. This gets pushed in to make it not as thick of a coil, and then just gets a bunch of doodads on it similarly to the front, just in a different position. Except this time it's got a big blue button and also yellow and red smaller ones on the back. This gets added to the back, and then 2 very dark gray worms attaching it to the front body. Then I get a black ball and surround it with the same off-white I've been using in order to make the helmet. Now that I have this, I can thicken it up in order to make it an actual helmet instead of just a ball covered in white clay, and then I add the little circles on the side. Then all of these white pieces get blended together to make sure that it all looks like one coherent piece, which is basically just not going to... This part is not going to be seen afterwards because I basically just cover this... Well, I bake it, and then I cover it in another white sheet. However, this worm right here will get seen, as it is very important to separate out the helmet from the visor. This gets blended into the rest of the white to make sure that no visible seams will happen later, and then it gets baked and covered with a lot more white clay. This is basically just to cover up any imperfections and also make it the correct thickness. These just get pressed on until there's no visible seam as per usual, and then once all of that's done, I can add the ear thingies, which are just circles on both sides of the ears with a little indent out of it, which is just basically another coil, except the inverse of a coil. Then I put a black coil in there, pretty much just that again, and then press it in there. This gets copied over to the other side, same with the black coil inside of it, and then that gets pressed in as well, and then the head gets pressed into the body. Now that I have the head, pretty much the entire astronaut build is done, and I can start working on the base. This base starts out as a bluish-black base with some pinkish magenta stripes on it. I put 3 stripes on the side and a lot more than 3 stripes in the middle, always pushing them down to make sure that these stripes are completely flat, as this is the block game. I don't know what it's called, and I'm not looking it up. Then I add them going perpendicular to the other lines, pressing them in again, and then, once I have all of that done, I cut out a little section of the base in order to make it look more chaotic. Once I have this, I flatten out all the edges and push this guy head first while sticking his arms up to give him slightly more support. Still definitely not enough. And then I cover the body in sparkles. Purple sparkles, blue sparkles, pink sparkles, lime sparkles. Those are the only colors, but there's just a lot of them. I start up by just doing bunches of them covering out the bottom, but after a while I realize that the bottom is not where they'd be coming from, so I end up just switching them up to the feet, then realizing my mistake and then switching them over to the top. And with that, it's done. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like. If you want to see more like it, subscribe. And if you want to see something specific in the future, leave it in the comments below.